Okay, hold on a minute. Wait a minute, everyone. Just let me double check my numbers here. Okay, so I want to just make a small correction here at the beginning. I made a video yesterday talking about all the ways that you could defeat Saturn, you know, because he apparently is immortal. And I missed the most obvious one. That happens a lot when I do videos. I'll go off on like 72 tangents about unrelated things, and the big obvious one is just right there in front of me the whole time. Yeah, why don't we just try dropping him into a volcano? I mean, that seems to be the thing that works, right? Like, that is actually confirmed to work on Big Mom and Kaido. It'll probably work on anybody, honestly. Like, so from this point onward, if the Straw Hats ever encounter a really strong character like Saturn or the other Gorosei or Eam, just chuck them into a volcano, right? Just find a volcano and then just like all the Straw Hats, like one after another, just chuck the Gorosei, and then Luffy comes over with Eam and just throws them into a volcano, and then solves the problem right there, honestly. It's like they have a mechanism to make it work, okay? That's all I'm saying, right? Volcanoes, the ultimate problem solvers. All right. This will be One Piece, chapter 1105 review titled The Height of Folly, which is a very fancy title. I liked the original version I saw on the spoilers when they first dropped, and it was translating the title as The Height of Stupidity, or The Pinnacle of Stupidity, which I think works a lot better. The title page is pretty neat. We have Carrot making some stew. Nekamamushi and Inuarashi are there. I like to imagine that, do the Minks have Christmas or Thanksgiving? I don't know, some version of Mink Thanksgiving. I like to imagine Nekamamushi and Inuarashi come back to Zunisha once a year just to say hi to everybody, and then Carrot is there making dinner, and they all sit down at a table and have a delicious stew. It's a nice Mink holiday, all right? There it is, right? Okay, but there. And also, that discredits the idea that Carrot is hiding in one of the barrels on the Sunny. She's clearly back at Zoe as the Duchess making stew. I mean, clearly, right? Yeah, obviously. All right. So, we continue where we left off last chapter, which was a pretty bombastic conclusion. In more ways than one, Saturn had declared the Buster Call Protocol, and now all of the Marines on the island are evacuating. These guys don't even know what's going on, honestly. They just hear over the radio that, like, you know, because they weren't allowed in the center of town, because that's where Saturn was and everything. So these are just, like, lower-ranked Marines just hanging out, and then they're just chilling and just, like, you know, holding their guns and their swords and just being on the ready, and then it's like, all right, what do you think's gonna happen, Jeremy? I don't know, Nate. I don't know. We're just hanging out here, and then all of a sudden, all Marines, Buster Call, Protocol, back into the ships, evacuate! Like, it's like, what was that, Buster? Oh my god, a Buster Call! And then Jeremy looks over at Nate, and he's just like, yeah, this is your first time, huh? First Buster Call? I'll tell you what, a member of my family has fought and died in every single Buster Call. My brother died in the Ennie's Lobby Buster Call. My dad died in the O'Hara Buster Call. I have quite a reputation to live up to. It's like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, you know? It's just like, yeah, so all the Marines hear this, and they're just like, ah! And they start running toward the ships to evacuate. Prepare for full fleet bombardment! Oh, that doesn't sound good, right? Okay. So, we have the Marines evacuating. Doll shows up there. Hi, Doll. I hope you're not dead and are actually Katarina Devon. That would suck. But Doll is like, Saint Saturn, Admiral Kizaru, please come back to the ship. And then Saturn is just like, Kizaru and I shall remain on the island. Retreat and begin the bombardment as quickly as possible. And then, you know, Doll is like, okay. And then Kizaru just very solemnly, Kizaru is just, you can kind of see his eyes behind his glasses, and his eyes are very just like very despondent, as it were. It's almost like Kizaru is like shutting off his own emotions here. Like, he's not happy with what anything is going on here. Even if you want to say Kizaru is not being manipulated or anything like that by Saturn, Kizaru is genuinely like just throwing his lot in with the government, and he's just like, this is what I'm doing now. Even if you want to say that, Kizaru is not happy about doing what he's doing, right? He doesn't want to kill Vegapunk and nuke the entire island. He doesn't want to do that. So in terms of making that okay for himself or getting through it, he's just like turning off his emotions. So he just says go to Doll. He's just like, go. leave. And then Doll is like, yeah, okay, yes, sir, all right. And then she goes. Now, also, you gotta understand, like, if it's Kizaru and Saturn that remain on the island, I mean, they're gonna be fine even with a Buster Call. Clearly, Saturn can regenerate from, like, any damage that we've seen so far. I'm sure some cannon fire won't do much more. I mean, maybe it would, who knows. And in terms of Kizaru, he's a Logia. He's made of light. So, unless you're firing, like, sea prism stone cannons, you know, like cannonballs or whatever, I think Kizaru would be fine, too. So there's really no concern for this. They can bomb the entire island into oblivion. Kizaru can just zip out of that no problem. So yeah, they all leave. Vegapunk is there, and he's just giving Saturn the business, okay, which is really nice, okay? Not quite as cathartic as Kuma punching him right in his spider face, but this is pretty nice too, you know? I mean, where Vegapunk is just like, yeah, I thought you were only after my life. Why do you have to destroy the entire island? That's not very scientastic. And Saturn is just like, you know, it's your fault, Vegapunk. You're the one that did the research on the Void Century. And Vegapunk's like, you don't understand, Saturn. This island is the epicenter of scientific research and discovery. If you destroy it, if you Buster Call it, then that'll set all of humanity back by like 100 years. And Saturn, the way he interprets that is like, oh, that means you must be hiding something else. Some other weapon that's here? No matter. We have no further need for scientific advancement. And Vegapunk is so upset here because he's like, no, I don't have another weapon, you fool. It's for the sake of humanity. It's just like, it's the difference between the way Saturn is viewing everything. Saturn has no trust in Vegapunk at this point. It's just like, oh, Vegapunk must be trying to build a robot army to take over the government. That's what I would do. And Vegapunk genuinely wants to help humanity. He genuinely wants to help all of us by creating the internet. Which, as we all know, has done wonders for No, I mean, it is a huge advancement, right? It's like other things, too. It's like, you know, medicine, and like he developed like the artificial organs and everything like that. Like, he wants to help humanity, but Saturn is just, he is so... I don't know, like at one point Saturn was probably human, but that point has long since passed. He does not have a shred of humanity left in him. I mean, he's just like all the other Tenryubito in that regard. You know, it's just like we are superior beings, you know, all that kind of shit. So he just looks at Vegapunk and is just like, yeah, we don't need scientific advancement anymore. In fact, it would probably be okay if we wound the clock back a bit. You know, we got rid of all this advanced tech and we go back to a simpler time. Saturn's up there like, I remember back in the day, 300 years ago, where we didn't have these fancy laser beam shooting robots. Back then, it was easy to control the masses. All you needed was a big stick. You know, nowadays, you got all of your sea prism ships and your, you know, laser cannons and mother flames. It was different back in the day. You know, that's how that goes. He's also, Vegapunk is just beseeching Kizaru. Like, he's on the ground. Like, Kizaru, please! Please, man! Like, do something here! And Kizaru is just like, you can almost see his lip, like, quivering, like he wants to, but I don't get you, Kizaru! You're so confusing right now, Kizaru! Just, like, punch Saturn in the face, blind him, and then be like, Vegapunk, get out of here! You know, it's like, I don't get Kizaru right now, man. This is so confusing for me. I guess it's just, like... I guess he's just dedicated to it. I don't know what else. I mean, like, unless Saturn is doing some weird thing where he actually is manipulating him, I mean, I wouldn't throw it past him at this point. Saturn has weird abilities, but, like, it really does seem that Kizaru is just like, no, I gotta do it, gotta destroy the entire island and wipe out scientific advancement and the betterment of humanity. It's my job, it's my paycheck, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, oh, come on, Kizaru, please, for the love of God, do something. And I was just like, and he's not doing anything, he's not budging here. So Saturn continues, he says, oh, by the way, Vegapunk, that reminds me, there was that a ship that evacuated yesterday with all the scientists on Egghead. Yeah, well, you know, I gave an order for that to be hunted down and obliterated and sunk at sea because, you know, we got to make sure. One thing Akainu definitely did right back in the day. Back at Ohara, Akainu had the good metric to know that an evacuation ship could have somebody that knew about the Void Century, so I decided to take a page out of his playbook book, and I've sent down a marine vessel to sink it. And then Vegapunk, of course, is like, are you insane, man? They were just simple scientists. They didn't even know anything about the Void Century. There was just like humble anthropologists and numerologists. There were geologists on there, for God's sake, Saturn. You're destroying geology. There are geographers on there too. God help you. You're destroying geography. You're destroying geography and geology and all the other sciences that start with the letter G. You're a monster, Saturn. What is the most, like, innocent form of science? You know, like, what's the most, like, oh, damn you, Saturn, you destroyed I'm trying to think, what's the study of, like, birds or whatever? I forget the exact scientific term for it. You know what, hold on, I'm gonna look it up right now. Just give me a second. I got it. It's ornithology. Okay. Saturn, damn you! There were ornithologists on there. They only wanted to study birds, for God's sakes. It was the most innocent kind of science. Why? Those birds might have said something, Vegapunk. Those birds might have had a secret to the Void Century. I had to. Oh my God. But, he goes on to say that, like, you broke a taboo, Vegapunk. You should have known you dug not only your own grave and the grave of all your other satellites, but the graves of everybody that was on this island when you dug your nose into the Void Century. You should have kept your greed in check. See, it's that shit right there. It's like the arrogance of these celestial dragons is almost palpable for how much of it there is, It's like Saturn's perspective on this is like, listen, we keep telling you to not research the Void Century, all right? We control everything. We're the ones that rule the world. If we tell you not to do something, you don't do it. And if you do it, you're the one that sinned. You're the greedy one. You're the one that just wanted to know the history of the world. Well, now you're gonna die because of it. And they treat it as if it's like a natural law of the universe, because they do set themselves up as like gods, right? So they're like, the natural law of the universe is you don't study the Void Century. You studied it. Hey, you asked for this. My hands are clean here. You know what I mean? That's the kind of crap that like Saturn is spouting here, right? So the order is for the Pacifista Mark III units to remain on the island to, help with the bombardment because they don't care if the Pacifistas get wiped out. Honestly, I feel like Saturn at this point is just like running the clean slate protocol from like Iron Man 3, where it's just like, just gather up all the future tech in one place and then bomb the shit out of it. We're just gonna start over, and we'll probably go back into the Middle Ages for a little while, and then maybe in a few hundred years we'll try this future shit again, but maybe find a scientist that actually will play ball with us. But for right now, just destroy everything, right? So Pacifistas are on the island. They're beginning to attack. We cut back. Okay, so Sanji, Frankie, Bonnie. We have Atlas carrying Kuma because Kuma is still all locked up and stuff. Frankie is, I guess, okay. Frankie got kicked into a building by Kizaru last chapter, and here he is. He's just back up. We don't even get to see him like recover. He's just okay. It's all right. Frankie is built with sterner stuff, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be fine, right? So Sanji is kind of like, all right, everybody, get to the vacuum rocket, get up to the Labophase. You got to escape. We got to get out of here. This is no longer about, like, we got to defeat Kizaru. We got to defeat Saturn. Like, Sanji and Frankie are pretty smart here that they're like, this is an evacuation. This is like Totland all over again. We're not trying to beat Big Mom here. We are trying to escape, to get the hell out, okay? Now, Bonnie turns around and is like, but Sanji, what about Vegapunk? And Sanji's just like, oh, do not worry, Bonnie-chan. I will make sure he's okay. So Sanji's gonna stay behind to go get Vegapunk, because they're not gonna leave him behind, of course. Everybody else gets in the vacuum rocket to shoot back up to the Labophase, and then rendezvous with everybody else, and then get on the Sunny, and then get the hell out of Dodge. All right, that's the idea, right? So they're just scrambling to get out of here before the Buster Call obliterates obliterates everything. They should be well aware of this at this point. So they all get in the vacuum rocket. They fire up to the Labophase. Sanji's running back. He has the comms. He still has like the Bluetooth set and everything. He's just like, Nami, what's your status? And so we come back to see what's going on at the Labophase. It's been a while since we've seen the other Straw Hats, okay? It's been a while. We see Nami, we see Chopper, we see Usopp, we see Robin finally. Everybody was like, what's Robin up to? What's she doing? I bet Robin is doing something really clever right now. It's like, guys, she's wounded. She's in bed. She's sleeping, all right? She, a Chopper probably gave her a sedative or something. She was really banged up from the battle last night that we didn't see. So, yeah, she's just in the hospital wing. She's just in a little, like, floaty little bed kind of thing, or like a stretcher that, like, floats, and she's just, like, she's not, maybe not unconscious, but she's asleep, she's, like, sedated or whatever. Chopper's there next to her, just like, make sure to get your rest while you can, Robin, because we gotta get out of here soon. You have Edison there. He's all patched up. Well, kind of. His face is still kind of messed up, but you know what? Out of all of the Vegapunk satellites, I'm glad Edison made it out. I hope Edison makes it out. I mean, I guess nothing is guaranteed yet, but I hate that Shaka got shot. We're gonna see Lilith in a second. If it's just the Lilith and Edison and then the Stella that make it to the next island, like if Atlas died, I wouldn't care, but I'm glad Edison made it through, okay? Which one was your favorite satellite, all right? Which one was your favorite satellite? And let's place bets on who's gonna make it to Elbath in One Piece. But if it was just Lilith and Edison, he's a cute little robot guy. It's just like, you go, Edison, all right. So Nami's there, and she's just kind of like relaying the information because it's been a while since we've been updated on what's going on. It's like, okay, so they have made it to the back entrance of the Labophase. However, there's still a couple of parts that are missing here. For one thing, Zoro is still fighting with Lucci. We don't get an update on that in this chapter, but they're still fighting, apparently, according to Nami. They sent Jinbei over to go fetch Zoro to make sure that fight, like, to break up the fight, but also, like, make sure Zoro doesn't get lost. So Jinbei is probably just going to show up, and, Lucci and Zoro are fighting, and Jinbei's like, all right, kids, all right, I'm the dad of the Straw Hat crew now. Zoro, we're leaving. We gotta go. Say goodbye to your friend. We have to leave. And Zoro's like, Dad, I was having fun. He's like, I know, but I gotta get up early for work tomorrow, and this Buster call is gonna obliterate the entire island. So we gotta get moving. All right. Lucci, you can come over for dinner if you want. Lucci, the island's gonna be Buster called. Do you want to stay or do you want to come with us? That actually is an interesting question. I'm assuming Lucci would probably just jump back down to the fabrication sphere and then evacuate with the rest of them. But what about Kaku? Stussy will definitely be with the Straw Hats and Vegapunks, but what about Kaku and what about Lucci? I feel like Lucci's gonna go with the government. Kaku's not going with the government. Kaku's staying behind. He's like, screw you. This is the second Buster call they called on us. This is ridiculous, Lucci. How many times are you just gonna listen to them? And Lucci's probably gonna be like, look, I was a government dog ever since I was a little kid, so I'm gonna continue to be that for the rest of my life. And Kaku's like, well, I was too, but I'm staying with the Straw Hats. They probably won't at least summon a Buster call on me. And be like, all right, you do you, man. I think like Lucci and Kaku are going to separate at this point, right? So that's what's going on with Zoro and Lucci, and Jinbei going to break them up. We also have an update on what's going on with exactly how they're going to get off the island. The original plan was to have Vega Force 1 pick up the Sunny and then carry it off the island. Unfortunately, Vega Force 1 was destroyed by Kizaru. So Nami actually, like, because Sanji didn't know this. Sanji had no idea what was going on with Vega Force 1 or anything, so Nami tells him. It's like, yeah, the robot was destroyed by Kizaru. So Brook went to go help Lilith move the Sunny a different way because, Vega Force, like, picked it up and was, like, running across the Labophase to the other end. But now they have to figure out another way to do that because, the Sunny's pretty big, right? Well, don't worry. They figured out a method. We cut over to Lilith and Brook, and basically because all of the Labophase is made out of island cloud, Brook used his powers, his Soul Solid and his Yomi Yomi Nomi powers, to freeze the surface of the clouds so it's super slick, and then they just push the Sunny like a sled. That's actually really clever. And now they're just like coasting on the sails of the Sunny, just over the billowy clouds over to the other side. It's just like pretty cool. And Lilith is there like, wow, that's amazing, Mr. Bones. This is incredible you were able to do that. And Brook is like, oh my god, it's so great to hear praise from the greatest scientist in the world. I am actually a very clever skeleton after all. And as they're going over with the ice, obviously they're gonna hit the other side side of the island. So Lilith is like, oh, hey, by the way, how do we stop this? Because if we just keep sliding on the ice, eventually we're going to hit the edge of the Labophase and just fall off and then hit the Frontier Dome and then get attacked with laser beams. So it's like, how do we stop this? And Brooke is like, yoo-hoo-hoo! Oh, I haven't thought of that, actually. And I guess Vegapunk, well, Lilith is just, Vegapunk 2, Lilith is just like, oh, you idiot, what are we going to do? It's like, well, you're the scientist, Lilith-san. I guess you could find a way to stop us. Yoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! I'm sure Lilith will come up with something. She is a Vegapunk after all. Like, you know, how do you stop a giant ship sailing on ice? It's something. You could figure it out, right? Okay. Meanwhile, the Marines have begun the first volley. So they all get back to their ships. I think it's the Vice Admiral that can turn into an otter. Yeah, there was one of the Vice Admirals that had an unnamed otter-type zone or whatever, but it was like, yes, you know, begin the bombardment, men! And there was still Marines on the island. Like, all the Marines haven't even evacuated yet. It's just like, we're not done yet! It's like, sorry, got an order from the Gorosei, gotta do it. Bombard the island! And then so they begin bombarding the island. The Pacifista Mark IIIs just start like, okay, start firing into the area, and Vegapunk is just there. I would imagine, I mean, this dude is 65 years old. He's exhausted from the whole night of running around from the Seraphim and now dealing with all this crap. Vegapunk is just on the ground, just looking at his creation just being destroyed in front of him. Like, all the buildings of Egghead just being collapsed. And he's just like, it took a whole 4 years to build this place. It honestly did, because like all of Egghead was nothing 4 years ago after the Punk Hazard incident. It's like, do you know how long it'll take me to build another Egghead Saturn? 4 whole years. Well, I could probably get it done in 3 now, but that's beside the point. It's just like, well, no, I mean, like, obviously he doesn't have the backing from the world government anymore after this, so Vegapunk is also lamenting, like, okay, all of the research I done, everything everybody worked on so much at Egghead, all the other researchers, studies and everything. The ornithologist had a really interesting report on birds, on cardinals. They were going to report it, and it was going to be great, and that's getting burned up right now, so it's just like, oh, man, all my life's work, again. You know, this keeps happening to Vegapunk, you know? Meanwhile, we have the hyper capsule that's heading up to the Labophase. It's only going to take about 30 seconds to get there. Unfortunately, Kizaru can move really fast because he's made of light. So, you know, they're going up, and then Kizaru just takes out his light sword, Ama no Murakumo, and then just slices the Futurama tube, and it also slices the capsule. Thankfully, no one died from that. At least I don't think so. Did Kizaru cut Atlas in half? Because Atlas was pretty big. I don't think nobody got cut in half. I think everybody is still okay. The capsule just got, like, cut, and so, like, Atlas, like, hits the windshield, and then it cracks it. Frankie's in the front, and then in the back you have Kuma and Bonnie. So, yeah, but, ooh, Atlas looked like she cracked her skull pretty good when she slammed right into that hyper capsule, like the windshield or whatever. So, yeah, Kizaru just slices it, and then we just get to the last scene of the chapter. The chapter is relatively short. There's a lot of, like, stuff happening in, like, big page spreads, right? So Sanji is still on the ground going to get Vegapunk. He looks up, sees the tube get destroyed, knows that, like, oh, Bonnie's on there, and Atlas is on there, Frankie's on there, Kuma's on there. He's like, yo, you bastard, I'm coming. And so I guess he starts using Geppo. He starts using Skywalk to jump up to fight Kizaru. So now we have Sanji fighting Kizaru, which was actually something that was set up a while ago. I think it was one of the openings. I think it was Hard Knock Days was the opening where you got to see the admirals fight against the Straw Hats, like Luffy going up against Akainu, Zoro going up against Fujitora, and Sanji clashing with Kizaru. We might be getting that now, actually. So it's like, all right, cool. Let's see where this is gonna go. Sanji versus Kizaru. All right, I'm down with it. Then we have Saturn saying, ah, yes, how suitably ironic. You threw your life away so that your daughter could live, Kuma. But now you will all be blasted full of lasers by the robots that are the appearance of your father. And so that's when Saturn orders all of the Mark IIIs, fire your lasers at Bonnie and Kuma. And so all of the Pacifista 3s are just like looking up as Bonnie and Kuma and everybody are tumbling out of the hypercapsule. They just, and then you just, as Kuma grabs Bonnie. It's like the protection instinct is still there. So like Kuma grabs Bonnie to protect her as you just see a bunch of stars and twinkling lights on the surface of Egghead as they're falling down, about to blast up and just punch them full of holes. Also, very important, Saturn specifically said for the Mark IIIs to target only Bonnie and Kuma, which means that Frankie and Atlas might be able to get away. Sanji might be able to do something because all of the lasers are focused on just one target right now because Bonnie is being held by Kuma. Probably going to be a thing where, you know, Kuma's going to take all the brunt of the damage. This might be the thing that ultimately destroys him. I think his body is going to be completely obliterated by the end of this arc, which is very sad. And at the same time this is going on, Vegapunk is also witnessing this from the surface. And he's like, you know, Bonnie, when I heard you became a pirate, I was worried. Not because necessarily you were going to get, like, captured by a Marine or whatever, but the specific thing that Vegapunk was worried about was if the Marines ordered a pacifista to kill you, that means that your father basically would be the one doing it because your father's appearance is the pacifista. And so Vegapunk couldn't get this idea out of his mind of this innocent girl Bonnie being killed by a robot that looks exactly like her father and just how jacked up that situation would be. And so this was like the worst case scenario that Vegapunk could imagine, and it's happening right in front of his eyes. So, dude, Vegapunk, dude, I wish Vegapunk, like, had, like, it's time for me to go, it's time for Vegapunk to digivolve, you know, and it's like Vegapunk digivolves into Mechapunk! like, activates some secret weapon. Maybe he did have a secret weapon the whole time, like, Saturn is like, do you have some other weapon I don't know about? And Vegapunk's like, actually, I do! Mega Evolution! Gigantamax Vegapunk! You know, he just turns into a giant, like the size of a mountain. You know, that would be cool, but I don't think so. I think Vegapunk is just watching helplessly of what's going to occur here. Last shot of the chapter. We get 2 shots, actually. We see some Marines that are still on the island, so they're, I guess, going to die, I suppose. But they're like, hey, we found Straw Hat Luffy. He's over by the vending machine. So I don't know if, like, at this point, if anybody even helped Luffy, if, like, Kizaru did anything, Caribou did anything. From the perspective of this chapter, it's Luffy just rolled and tumbled his way back to the vending machine and was like, beep, I need some burger. Beep, I need another burger. Beep, gourmet hot dogs. Beep, pizza. just like, you know, getting stuff out of the vending machine. Soda. Look. All right, what's next? And just, like, pushing random buttons. Mochi, I hate this, but whatever, I'll eat it anyway. It's just like you're just pushing random buttons. So I don't know how Luffy ended up there, but he's swollen. He's eating all the food out of the vending machine, and the Marines are there. It's just like, quick, seize him, men, he's an emperor. So these Marines are very dedicated to their task because they're still on the island while a Buster Call is being initiated. So whatever, it doesn't matter. Luffy has eaten enough food now that I think he'll get back up and be able to deal with these guys. But yeah, how he got there exactly, I guess he rolled. But the final scene of the chapter is way more interesting. It's a shot where you have a destroyed Marine vessel out at sea somewhere. And the last remaining Marines on this vessel are like lamenting that they have to let Kizaru know, like, we failed to neutralize that escaping vessel from Egghead. We have to report this to Admiral Kizaru. We have to let them know that they're heading for Egghead. Dun, 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 dun. End of the chapter. Someone else is on the way. All right. Let's do a little bit of detective work, shall we? All right, let me move my tablet over. All righty then. We got a lot of characters on this board. It has to be one of them, right? All right. Well, it can't be any of the Straw Hats. They're already there. Now, Blackbeard is an interesting one. We saw one of the Blackbeard ships at Egghead, but that was already at Egghead prior to the evening, prior to the attacks of the Seraphim and everything, or around the same time. But maybe it's the rest of the Blackbeard crew coming to pick up Lafitte and Davon, maybe? Could be the Blackbeard crew. I don't think it's Law, because Law and Beppo are off having their own adventure right now. I don't think it's Law. I'm pretty sure it's not Whitebeard on account of him being dead. Roger, I think the likelihood of it being Goldie Roger coming to save them, like, we have to tell Kizaru, the king of the pirates is back. That would be terrifying. But I the 1% chance it's Roger. Give me that much. No, it's not Kid. Shanks. Shanks. Egghead is very close to Elbaf. Last time we saw Shanks, he was leaving Elbaf. That's not a crazy idea that it could be Shanks. He is near Egghead. He is by the perimeter, and we saw him leaving. Could Shanks have heard about something going on at Egghead right now? Could he have heard about, like, Kizaru's going to Egghead, Buster Call on Egghead, Saturn's going to Egghead? Like, if Shanks had heard about any of that, he probably would have been like, let's swing by to make sure they don't all die, you know? Yeah. The Cross Guild. Cross Guild's very possible as well. Very possible. We can see what they're doing. They have a new ship. I don't know if Crocodile and Mihawk would want to get on that ship, but it could be them. I think those are the only ones that make sense. Oh, it could be a Kainu. No, it's not a Kainu. I feel like the only groups that make logical sense at this phase in the story to show up here. I also thought about the Revolutionaries, but they're still at Kamabaka. Like, Dragon and everybody is still at Kamabaka. Like, getting from there all the way to Egghead. I mean, Dragon's ability might maybe make it possible for him, but, like, all of the Revolutionaries together. That would be cool because Kuma's connection to the Revolutionaries, they come and save him. That would be neat. But I doubt it's that. Could it be the man marked by flames? I don't think so, because they're using their, like, a group. Like, it was a group that showed up and sunk the Marine ship, right? So, to tie this back in with everything going on, I think it would only make sense for it to be the Blackbeard Pirates, the Red Hair Pirates, or the Cross Guild. One of those three groups getting involved. And we already know that Blackbeard is involved. We saw a ship of his at Egghead, so he's kind of already involved. He might be doubly involved, or it could be him and Shanks or the Cross Guild, right? Honestly, like, Shanks is a good idea because of how close he was, but I kind of want it to be the Cross Guild too. I kind of want, like, all of this to... I kind of want the Straw Hats escape to be assisted by Buggy. I just feel like that would be awesome, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's the end of the chapter for this week. No break next week, so we're getting 3 chapters right in a row. Fantabulous, great way to end out January, I suppose. Luffy, I think, is going to be fine. As for Bonnie and Kuma, like, Bonnie's obviously not going to die, but Kuma might. There's a lot of lasers being fired at once. I'm sure Kuma can tank a few of those, but maybe all of them at once might be too much. He's also already heavily injured. Sanji might be able to grab, you know, Frankie or Atlas and get them out of there. Meanwhile, Kuma protects Bonnie. But at the end of the day, they're going to land, and they're just going to, like... I'm picturing a scene where they land, and Kuma's already punched full of holes, but he gets Bonnie to safety. Like, Bonnie is taken by Sanji, and then Kuma gets up, and then he's just surrounded by, like, 30 Pacifista Mark IIIs that are all his same image, and they all just, like, in a circle, just decimate Kuma, just barrage him with laser fire until he's not moving, right? Like, that might be the end of Kuma, just, you know, shot down by 30 identical versions of himself, okay? That would be very upsetting. That would be also a way I could see Oda doing it, right? Okay. But yeah, as Saturn says at the end of the chapter, your struggle was truly the height of folly, or the pinnacle of stupidity, Kuma. Oh, my goodness. All right. So, yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, actually, there was one scene I did forget about. It was when we saw the other Straw Hats. We had the scene with Usopp there, and Usopp's jumping up and down, and he's just like, another Buster Call? Why does this keep happening to us? And it's just so funny that, like, Robin was not awake during that, because Robin would have looked right at Usopp and be like, yeah, I can't think of anything worse than getting 2 Buster Calls on you. Maybe getting 3. And then Usopp would be like, oh, okay, that's fair, Robin. I'm sorry. I should have thought before I said something. And just like, nah, it's cool. You know, you've survived one Buster Call, you survive them all. You know, at a certain point, is the government going to be like, all right, we can't kill one person with 3 of these. What's the point of having them? You know what I mean? We need to rethink the Buster Call strategy a little bit if we can't wipe out one person, right? Okay. Well, anyway, that's the chapter. Hope you all enjoyed. where's the nearest volcano? Maybe that'll solve the problem. Maybe toss the admirals into the volcanoes. The only one that might not work on is Akainu, but other than that, they would all work. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Tacking signing out. Later, everyone.